The day the Los Angeles fires began, I met Alex. It wasn't the most romantic setting, smoke hanging thick in the emergency, sirens wailing in the distance, and me desperately trying to salvage what I could from my apartment in the Hollywood Hills. I was shoving photos and important documents into a backpack when he appeared in my doorway wearing firefighter gear and carrying an axe. "Siru, need to evacuate immediately," he said, his voice muffled behind his mask. "The fire line is moving faster than predicted." I looked up, ready to argue that I needed just 5 more minutes, but words died in my throat, even through the protective gear. I could see his eyes startlingly blue and intense with concern. "I'm Michael," I said, instead of leaving. Immediately, as he should have, he pulled off his mask, revealing a face that belonged on a magazine cover, rather than in the midst of a disaster. Zone strong, jaw short, blonde hair darkened with sweat. "Anthos eyes, Lieutenant Alex Crawford," he replied. "And while I'd love to chat, this building needs to be cleared in the next 3 minutes. The urgency in his voice snapped me back to reality. I grabbed my backpack and laptop, taking one last look at the apartment. I'd called home for the past 3 years. "Is there anyone else on this floor?" he asked, as we headed for the stairs. "No, just me. Most people evacuated us today. When the warnings first came and you stayed, because I'm a writer," I explained, following him. Down the stairs. "I was working on a deadline. Thought I could finish before things got serious." He shot me look that was equal parts exasperation and amusement. "A deadline's not worth your life," says the man Haroons into burning buildings for a living. We reached the ground floor, and he guided me toward the emergency vehicle. Sparked outside. The sky was an apocalyptic orange ash, falling like snow. "You have somewhere to go?" he asked. "Hotel downtown." I nodded. "My car's in the garage." "Garage is already compromised. You'll need to evacuate on foot or take one of the emergency buses." I must have looked dismayed because his expression slightly. "I'll walk you to the evacuation point. Make sure you get there safely." As we walked, I couldn't help stealing glances at him. Despite the chaos around us, he moved with a calm confidence that I found magnetic. "How long have you been a firefighter?" I asked, trying to distract myself from both the approaching inferno and my inappropriate attraction to the man tasked with saving my life. 8 years, he replied. "But I've never seen anything like this. The way this fire moves, it's like it's alive." A sudden gust of hot wind brought a shower of embers without hesitation. Alex pushed me against the wall, shielding me with his body. For a moment we were pressed together, his protective gear rough against my clothes, his face inches from mine. "Sorry," he muttered, stepping back once the danger had passed. "Professional instinct, don't apologize," I said, my heart racing for reasons that had nothing to do with the fire. "I appreciate not being set ablaze." The ghost of a smile crossed his face. "It's generally frowned upon to let civilians catch fire on my watch." We reached the evacuation point where BIS were loading people to take them to emergency shelters. Downtown, Alex handed me off to one of the coordinators. "Stay safe, Michael," he said, already turning the head back toward the fire. "Wait." I collared after him. Are you?" He looked back and something in his eyes made my breath catch. "I'll be fine. It's what I'm trained for." As I watched him disappear back into the smoke, I couldn't shake the feeling that this wouldn't be the last time our paths crossed. I didn't know then how right I was, or how that chance encounter would change both our lives forever. The downtown hotel was packed with evacuees, all of us watching the news coverage with a mix of horror and fascination. The fires had spread faster than anyone predicted, creating their own weather systems and defying containment. I couldn't stop thinking about Alex out there somewhere in that inferno. Every time the news showed footage of firefighters battling the blaze, I searched for a glimpse of him. 3 days after the evacuation, I was in the hotel lobby getting coffee when I saw him. He was in civilian clothes, wearing jeans, and a gray t-shirt that showed off his athletic build, looking exhausted but alive. "Alex," I called out before I could stop myself. He turned, confusion crossing his face before recognition dawned. "Michael, the Peyton who doesn't know when to evacuate." "That's me," I smiled, then noticed said bandage on his forearm. "Are you okay? Minor burn." He shrugged. "Could have been worse. They're making me take 48 hours of mandatory rest." "Let me buy you coffee," I offered. "It's the least I can do for the man who saved my life." He hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "Coffee sounds good. I haven't slept in about 30 hours. We found a quiet corner of the lobby away from the crowds. Up close I could see the toll the past few days had taken on him, dark circles under his eyes, a faint scratch across his cheek, the slight tremor in his hands as he held his coffee cup. "How bad is it out there?" I asked softly. "Bad," he admitted. "We're losing ground, the wind patterns are all wrong, the humidity is too low, and the temperature keeps climbing. It's like fighting a living thing that learns and adapts. Is your team okay?" Something dark flickered across his face. "We lost 2 people yesterday, good firefighters, friends without thinking." I reassured across the table and touched his hand. He stiffened slightly, but didn't pull away. "I'm sorry," I said quietly. He looked at Ator's hands, then up at me. Something unspoken passed between us, a current of understanding and attraction that of us was ready to acknowledge. "What about you?" he asked, clearing his throat. "How's the writing going?" "Surprisingly well, actually. There's something about impending disaster that focuses the mind. I've written more in the past 3 days than in the previous 3 weeks. What do you write?" "Novels, mostly contemporary fiction." "Me, agent, been pushing me to try something more commercial, but..." I trailed off, suddenly self-conscious. "Sorry, you probably don't want to hear about my creative crisis while the city's burning." He smiled, and despite his exhaustion, it transformed his face. "Actually, I'd love to hear about something normal. These past few days have been nothing but fire and death." "Tell me about your book." So I did. We talked for hours about my firefighting career, our families, our lives before the fires. He told me about growing up in Seattle, about coming out to his conservative family at 19, and their subsequent estrangement. One shared my own coming out story, more peaceful but still complicated. "Do you have someone," he asked suddenly, "waiting for you somewhere safer?" "No," I said, meeting his eyes. "Not for a while now." He shook his head. "My job makes relationships difficult. Most guys don't want to date someone who might not come home one day." The implication that he dated men sent a thrill through Mevin as his words sobered me. Before I could respond, his phone buzzed. "Damn," he muttered, checking the message. "They're calling everyone back in the fires." Jumped another containment line. He stood up, then hesitated. "Michael, when this is over, I'd like that," I said, understanding its unfinished thought. He pulled out his phone again, handed it to me. "Put your number in, just don't expect quick responses right now." I added my contact information, trying to keep my hand steady. When I gave his phone back, our fingers brushed, and that same electric current passed between us. "Stay safe," I said, echoing his words from days ago. He nodded, already moving toward the door. "Keep writing. I want to know how your story ends." As I watched him leave, I couldn't help thinking that our own story was just beginning, written in smoke and ash, and the promise of something more. The next week passed in a blur of smoke-filled sky eyes and anxious text messages. Alex would send brief updates when he could. "Still breathing, city still burning, thinking of you, lost another block in Silver Lake, but saved a dog." Small victories. 48 hours straight on the line. "Miss our coffee," I responded. Touch 1, trying to strike a balance between showing I cared and not distracting him from his vital work. Meanwhile, I channeled my worry into writing my novel's protagonist, mysteriously developing blue eyes and a hero complex. Then came the night that changed everything. I was watching the news coverage when they reported a major structural collapse in Los Fizz. The camera showed a burning apartment building, and my heart stopped when I recognized Alex's unit number among those responding. Hours passed with no messages from him. At 3 a.m., my phone finally buzzed. At Cedar Sinai. "Not serious, could use company." I've never gotten dressed so fast in my life. The hospital was chaos, full of smoke, inhaled victims, and minor burn cases. I found Alex in a curtained-off area, sitting on an with his right shoulder bandaged. "Hey Ryder," he said, managing a tired smile. "Sorry to drag you out so late. What happened?" I asked, fighting the urge to touch him, to verify he was really okay. Siling came down, pushed a civilian out of the way, took some debris to the shoulder. 8 stitches in a tetanus shot, but I'll live. "You're an idiot," I said softly, finally giving in, and took his uninjured hand. He intertwined our fingers. "Probably, but I'm an idiot who saved someone's life tonight." Maybe it was the adrenaline or the relief of seeing him alive, or just the way he was looking at me, but I couldn't help myself. I leaned in and kissed him for a moment, froze, and I started to pull back, apologies ready on my lips. Then his good arm wrapped around my waist, pulling me closer, and he was kissing me back with an intensity that made my head spin. When we finally broke apart, he rested his forehead against mine. "I've been wanting to do that since I saw you in the hotel lobby." "Only then," I teased. "Not when you were heroically saving me from the fire." I was being professional. He smiled. "Plus the breathing apparatus would have gotten In the way, a nurse cleared her throat from the curtain entrance, and we jumped apart like guilty teenagers. Lieutenant Crawford, your discharge papers are ready, she said, hiding a smile. Remember, no strenuous activity for at least a week. Alex's face wrinkled slightly. Thanks, Sarah. Once we were outside, standing in the hospital parking lot under an orange-tinted sky, uncertainty crept in. I should get back to my unit, he said reluctantly. We're short-staffed as it is. You're injured, he protested. Surely they can give you a day off. He shook his head. Not with a city like this, but he hesitated, then continued. I get off shift at 8 tomorrow night. If you're free, I'm free. I said quickly. My place? Well, the hotel room. That's currently my place. It's a date. He smiled, then grew serious. Michael feasting between us. The timing's terrible. The city's on fire. I agreed. We're both displaced. You risk your life daily. It's probably a horrible idea. He nodded, then pulled me in for another kiss, gentler this time, but no less intense. I'll see you tomorrow. I watched him walk away, his firefighter's jacket slung over his injured shoulder, and realized I was already falling hard for this brave, complicated man. Back in my hotel room, I couldn't sleep. Instead, I wrote, pouring out words about courage and fear, about finding love in the midst of chaos, about the way certain people crash into our lives like natural disasters, leaving us forever changed. At dawn, my phone buzzed with a text. Saved 3 more lives tonight. Each time I thought about your kiss gave me strength. Is that crazy? I smiled as I typed back. If it is we're both crazy. Be safe. Come back to me. Our first real date almost didn't happen at 7:30 p.m. The fire jumped another containment linear Griffith Observatory, and I watched the news with a sinking heart, certain Alex would have to cancel. But at 8:15, there was a knock on my hotel room door. He stood there in fresh clothes, his injured shoulder properly bandaged, holding a bottle of wine, and wearing an apologetic smile. Sorry, late. Had to convince me, Captain. I wasn't fit for the night shift. You didn't have to, I started, but he cut him off with a kiss. Yes, I did, he said when we parted. I've spent a week thinking about nothing but fire and death. I need this. I need you. The intensity in his voice made my breath catch. I pulled him into the room, closing the door behind us. The hotel room was a technically romantic, standard corporate furniture. View of the burning hills through the window, but we made do. I'd ordered takeout from one of the few restaurants still operating, and we sat on the floor eating Thai food and drinking wine straight from the bottle. Tell me something that has nothing to do with the fires, Alex requested, leaning back against the bed. I finished my novel today. I offered. Well, the first draft anyway. His face lit up. That's amazing. Will I get to read it? Maybe. I hedged. Thou, you might recognize certain characters. Oh, he raised an eyebrow. Should I be flattered or worried? Infinitely flattered, I assured him, then added more seriously, you've kind of taken over my creative process this past week. He sat down his wine and moved closer, his good hand coming up to cut my face. What else have I taken over? Instead of answering, I kissed him, tasting wine and spice and smoke. He responded immediately, pulling me closer, his fingers threading through my hair. Your shoulder, I reminded him, breathless lion. His kiss moved to my neck. Worth it, he murmured against my skin, but I could feel him favoring the injury gently. I pushed him back. We have time. You need to heal, he groaned, but allowed me to put some space between us. The nurse said, a week that's going to feel like forever. Then we'll have to find other ways to pass the time, I said, reaching for my laptop. Want to hear some of Venevel? His face softened. You'd share that with me. Well, you did inspire quite a bit of it. We ended up on the bed, Alex lying with his head in my lap while I read him chapters about a journalist covering a series of mysterious fires. He listened intently, occasionally asking questions, making observations that showed he was really engaging with the story. Your protagonist is braver than I am, he commented at one point. I set the laptop aside. You run into burning buildings for a living. That's different. That's training in adrenaline. Real bravery is this, he gestured between us, opening yourself up to someone, risking your heart. Is that what we're doing? I asked softly. Risking our hearts. He sat up, wincing slightly at the movement, and looked at me. Seriously, I think mine's already at risk. I know the timing is awful, and my job makes everything complicated, but I silenced him with a kiss. I'm good with complicated. I'm good with awful timing. I just want you, Alex. He pulled back slightly, his blue eyes intense. You should know, I've never been good at casual. If we do this, if we really do this, I'm all in, all in. I agreed, understanding the weight of what we were promising each other. Just then his phone buzzed. We both tensed, but it was just a text from his captain confirming he was off duty for the next 24 hours stay. I said, impulsively, not for just to sleep, I want to wake up next. To you, his answer was to kick off his shoes and pull me down beside him. We lay there talking until late into the night, sharing stories and secrets, occasionally trading lazy kisses despite the chaos outside it, despite the sirens and the orange glow. Through the windows we created our own peaceful bubble. I learned that he played guitar, that he was terrified of spiders. Despite facing infernos daily, that he'd wanted to be a firefighter. Since he was 6 years old, he learned about my writing process, me complicated relationship with my sister, my secret dream of writing a Broadway musical. As he drifted off Toeslip, his injured arm carefully positioned, he murmured, I think I'm falling for you, Michael. I think I'm already there, I whispered back, but he was already asleep. The next few weeks brought both heaven and hell. The fires continued to ravage Los Angeles, but in between Alex's shifts, we built our relationship in stolen moments and precious hours. We had breakfast in my hotel room when he got off night shifts, his uniformling of smoke, his tired eyes brightening. When he saw me, we shared quick kisses in hospital corridors. When I brought him coffee during his breaks on his rare days off, we explored the parts of the city that weren't burning, finding quiet corners in a world of chaos. One evening, about a month after we met, Alex took me to the fire station. His shoulder had healed, and he was back on full duty, but he wanted me to understand his world better. This is where I of my life, he said, showing me around on Station 23. The other firefighters greeted me warmly. They'd heard about Alex's riot and seemed genuinely happy to meet me. So you're the reason he's been smiling through this mess, his captain, a weathered man named Rodriguez, said to me privately. Keep it up, we need him focused and happy. That night, after showing me every inch of the station, Alex took me up to the roof. The city spread out before us, patches of orange flame visible in the distance sometimes. I come up here to think, he said, wrapping his arms around me from behind. Lately I've been thinking about you. I leaned back against his chest. Good thoughts. I hope mostly about how you've become my anchor in all this. When things get bad out there, when we lose someone or can't save a home, I think about coming back to you. I turned in his arms. To face him, is that too much pressure? He shook his head. It's what keeps me going. But he hesitated. It also scares me. The thought of something happening to me and hurting you. Don't, I said firmly. We can't live in fear of what might happen, says the man who worry texts me every time I'm on a call. That's different. I protested. That's just me being in love, he suggested softly. My heart stopped. We had said those words, yet though we danced around them, yes, I admitted, completely, terrifyingly in love. His kiss was fierce and passionate, backing me against the roof safety rail. When we finally broke apart, he rested his forehead against mine. I love you too, he whispered. God help me, but I do. The moment was interrupted by the station alarm. Alex tensed. Years of training kicking in. Go, I said, pushing him toward stairs. Be safe, come back to me. He kissed me once more, quick and hard. Then to respond to the call, I stayed on the roof, watching the fire trucks pull out, sirens wailing below me. I could heart organized chaos of the saint responding to the emergency. This was Alex's world, and I was learning to live in it. That night brought one of the worst blazes yet. I watched from the station as reports came in of an entire neighborhood being evacuated. Hours passed with no word from Alex. Finally at dawn, the trucks returned. Alex emerged, covered in soot, looking exhausted but alive. When he saw me still waiting, his face crumpled slightly. We lost the whole street, he said. When I reached him, couldn't save a single house, but we go to Virionote. I held him as he shook, not from fear or cold, but from the emotional toll of his job. Around us, other firefighters were going through similar moments with their loved ones who had come to wait. Come home with me, I said. When he had calmed down, he looked up in surprise to the hotel. No, I said, making a sudden decision. I mean, yes, for now. But I've been thinking my apartment building is still standing there, letting people return next week. Come live with me, Michael, he started. But I pressed on. I know it's fast. I know it's crazy, but nothing about us has been normal. Why start now? I love you, you love me, and life's too short to waste time. Being cautious, he was quiet for a long moment, and I started to worry. I'd pushed too far. Then he smiled, that brilliant smile that had first captured my heart. Yes, he said simply, let's do it. Let's build a home together in this burning city. Moving in together during a citywide crisis wasn't exactly conventional. Button again. Nothing about our relationship had been. The day we returned to my apartment in the Hollywood Hills, the air was still thick with smoke, but the immediate danger had passed. Home sweet home, I said, unlocking the door. It felt surreal being back where we'd first met, now under such different circumstances. Alex walked through the apartment, slowly taking everything in. So this is where you write your bestsellers, hopeful bestsellers, I corrected, watching as he explored the studies through there. But I usually end up writing on the balcony. He stopped at my desk, picking up a framed photo. Is this your family? Yeah, Christmas 2 years ago I moved beside him. That's my sister, Emma, one I told you about. And my parents, they know about me? He asked quietly. They know I'm seeing Simi and Samin important. I took his hand. They want to meet you when things settle down. Sat down the photo carefully, and they're okay with everything. I knew he wasn't just asking about my family's acceptance of my sexuality. He was asking about his dangerous profession, about how quickly we'd moved in together, about all of it. They trust my judgment, I said, and they're going to love you. He pulled me close, burying his face in my neck. I Hapizo, I want to do this right, Michael, all of it. That first night together in our home, it was ours. Now we decided. We ordered takeout and sat on the balcony watching the sun set through the haze of distant fires. Alex's phone was quiet for the first time in weeks. He had a full 4 hours off. I have something for you, he said suddenly, disappearing inside. He returned with a small box. Alex, I started, my heart racing. He laughed. Relax, it's not a ring, though. He paused. Someday, maybe the possibility in that maybe made me smile someday. I agreed. Inside the box was a key on a silver firefighter's axe keychain. It's to the station, he explained. Captain Rodriguez approved it. This way, you can always find me even when I'm on shift. I pulled him in for a kiss, trying to convey everything I was feeling. He responded with equal passion, and soon the takeout was forgotten as we christened our new home together. Later that night, lying in bed, with the windows open to the cool air, Alex traced patterns on my skin. Are you thinking about? I asked. The future, he said thoughtfully. For the first time in years, I'm thinking beyond the next shift, the next fire. I'm thinking about what I want our life to look like, and what does it look like? He propped himself up on an elbow. I want mornings with you, even when I'm exhausted from night shifts. I want to read everything you write. I want to introduce you to my sister. She's the only family I still talk to, and she'll adore you. I want everything, Michael, even with the risks I had to ask, even knowing what could happen, especially because of that, he said firmly. This job, it teaches you that life is precious and short. You can't waste time being afraid to love. Just then, his phone buzzed. We both tensed, but it was just a text from his sister. Speaking of, smiled, showing me the message. She wants to have dinner with us next week. Says she needs to approve of the man who's stolen her big brother's heart. Should I be nervous, terrified? Hegrin Sarah's scarier than any fire I've faced. We fell into a rhythm over the next few weeks. Alex would work his shifts, and I'd split my time between riding and bringing him meals at the station. The other firefighters became like family, and I found myself riding at the station more often than not, drawing inspiration from their stories and courage. The fires gradually began to subside as autumn approached, though the damage to the city would take years to repair. But among the ashes, Alex and I had built something beautiful and lasting. One evening, as we watched the sunset from our balcony, the sky finally clear of smoke, Alex turned to me. Thank you, he said suddenly. For what? For staying, for loving me, despite everything, for making me believe in something bigger than the next emergency. I took his hand, feeling thorough calluses from his work. Thank you for running into my apartment that day, for saving more than just my life. 6 months after we moved in together, on a crisp autumn evening, Alex and I stood in the same spot where we'd first met. The apartment hallway still held faint traces of smoke damage, but the building had survived. Just like us. Remember how annoyed you were when I wouldn't evacuate? I teased him. Remember how stubborn you were about your laptop? He countered, pulling me close. Though I suppose I should be grateful if you hadn't been so difficult. We might never have met. We were dressed up for once, heading to a celebration at the fire station. The worst fire season in Los Angeles history was officially over, and the department was holding a ceremony to honor those who'd fought it. Alex looked stunning in his dress uniform, metals gleaming on his chest. I'd never seen him so nervous. You're giving a speech, not fighting a fire, I reminded him as we drove to the station. Fighting fires is easier, he muttered. At least then I know what I'm doing. The station was transformed. When we arrived, the trucks had been moved outside, and the bay was filled with tables and decorations. Families of firefighters mingled with city officials and survivors who'd come to express their gratitude. Captain Rodriguez caught my eye as we entered and gave me a knowing wink. He and I had been planning this evening for weeks though. Alex had an idea. The ceremony began with speeches from the mayor and fire chief, followed by awards presentations. Alex received a commendation for bravery, specifically mentioning the apartment building rescue where we'd met when it was his turn to speak. He surprised everyone, especially me, by going off script 6 months ago during the worst fire season of my career. I met someone who changed my life, he said, his eyes finding mine in the crowd. He taught me that sometimes the bravest thing we can do is let ourselves love and be loved in return. He paused and I could see him gathering courage for what came next. Me heart started racing as he continued. Michael, he said, would you come up here on shaky legs? I made my way to the podium. The room had gone completely silent. I had this whole speech planned, Alex said, taking my hands in his, about how fire can destroy but also create, about how sometimes the most beautiful things rise from the ashes. But standing here now, I only need to say one thing. Head dropped to one knee, and I heard gasps from the audience. From his pocket, he produced a ring, simple silver, engraved with flames. Michael James Sullivan, he said, his voice steady despite the tears in his eyes. Will you marry me? The room disappeared in that moment. There brazenly, Alex, looking up at me with all the love and hope in the world. Yes, I managed say. God, yes. The station erupted in cheers as he slipped the ring on my finger and pulled me into a kiss. I could hear his crew whooping and whistling, could feel the joy radiating through the room. Later that night, back home on our balcony, I examined the ring in the moonlight. The engraved flames seemed to dance as the ring caught the light. How long have you been planning this? I asked. Since the day you asked me to move in, he admitted. I knew then that I wanted forever with you, but I wanted to wait until the fires were over, until we could start our next chapter without that shadow hanging over us. I leaned into him, breathing in his familiar scent. You know there will be other fires, other dangers. I know, he said seriously, and I know it won't always be easy, but we've already survived the worst fire season in history. I think we can handle anything life throws at us together. I added, together, he agreed, kissing me softly as we stood there, holding each other under the stars. I thought about how sometimes the most devastating fires can forge the strongest bonds. Alex and I had found each other in the midst of chaos, and our love had become something unbreakable, tempered by the very flames that threatened to destroy everything I thought about the novel I'd written during those burning days. Now sitting with my agent, it was a story about courage and survival, about finding love in unexpected places, but mostly it was our story, a firefighter and a writer building a life together from the ashes of disaster. What are you thinking about? Alex asked, noticing my contemplative mood. Our next chapter. I smiled, and all the chapters after that. He took my hand, our rings clicking together. I can't wait to live them all with you. The city stretched out before us, scarred but healing, just like the hearts that had found each other during its darkest. As Alex pulled me close for another kiss, I knew that whatever fires lay ahead, we would face them together, a love burning brighter than any flame.